Hello once again. Hey, it's Dan here in Virginia. I thought I'd give you a little update on the Maule M-7. I've been flying it. You know I like this plane. It's probably my favorite plane. I got this three-bladed prop. It's a master air screw. It's an 11.7.3. And that thing, I swear, it really gives the power to get going. Plus, the 4-cell batteries. You got to use 4-cell lipos. But recently, you know, I've been wanting to fly this thing. It came with these floats, and I haven't had a chance. You know, flying with floats takes a lot of extra logistics. First of all, you got to find a suitable body of water, and then secondly, you got to get all your stuff together. And if you go flying by yourself, you got to have more than an airplane. You got to have a rescue vehicle. So I do have a kayak, but you got to load the kayak on the boat on top of the truck, and you know, it's a lot more logistics to do it, but I finally got it going. I got the floats on here. I painted these floats, just hand painted them with the same paint I use on to touch up the aircraft with. It's just from Home Depot, I believe. You just take this battery hatch to Home Depot, and they put it under a spectrometer, and they match this paint. And they give you a little can of paint, a little half pint of paint, and I just use it. I just paint it by hand. It's not the smoothest finish, but anyway, I painted it up. But I took her out. I took 6 batteries. I have 6 4-cells. Took her out to the lake. Unfortunately, I got out there about 7:30 in the morning, and it was kind of an overcast day. It wasn't raining, but it was overcast, misty kind of a day. So I got down to the lake, got her out on the water. I have practiced taxiing. I recommend you practice taxiing one other day on a small pond in the neighborhood. I didn't fly it, I just taxied it. So, because when you taxi, when you get this in the water, you can't just roll the throttle on. These pontoons will dip into the water. You got to roll the throttle on very slowly and get it pointed into the wind, and then just continue to roll the throttle on just like a normal takeoff. Just roll it on. And this thing will track straight and true. It's much easier to keep a straight line, at least I thought so, on the water because of the V shape of the floats. As a V, they make a track in the water, keep it running like it's on railroad tracks. Plus, you got the water rudder. Just hold her steady, and first takeoff, I used half flaps. Well, you don't need half flaps. If you're running this prop and you're running 4-cell batteries, you don't need half flaps. Just forget it, because this thing makes a lot of friction, or stiction, I call it, in the water. Between the floats and the water, this thing doesn't want to go up. So it'll run a lot longer on the water than it does on land. You'll say, when's it going to take off? Well, you roll the juice on, and all of a sudden she'll just, boom, she'll pop right out like a cork. So she pops up, and that's on the first takeoff. With the flaps, you got to be ready. She's going to pop almost straight up. And you got to be ready to push it down, push the nose down, and continue your climb out. So you really don't need the flaps. If anything, just maybe 10-15%. It'll pop right up. It's beautiful to watch it. You go around, come back, and if you got a big enough lake, which I did, had a nice long landing. It just settles right in. I didn't even use flaps on landing, so that's why they landed so long, I guess. And spend a lot of time taxiing. So I taxi. When I take off with full up elevator, just like I do on land. Taxi a little bit, make sure these tips of these floats are out of the water. Then you got full up elevator, and then just roll the throttle on smartly and just let her go. She'll track true and straight, and then all of a sudden get ready, because you go boom, she's going to come up right out of the water. One thing I did do, though, I learned, here's a lesson for you. When you put these floats on the plane, you've got to run the wire out through the back door here. So I run the wire out through the back door. Let's see if we can flip her over. Oop. You run this wire out through this bottom door down here. And, you know, I very seldom take that off, so to check the gyro or something like that. So you run it out through there, and you run along this strut and you can see I got a couple of little small cable ties, but right here, this has to crush the styrofoam a little bit. It's not hard to do, you just put it on. But make sure you put it on, and check this thing here. I check the one on the battery hatch all the time. But make sure this is on tight and it's down in there secure, because I was on battery number 5. I was taking off, took off, all of a sudden I saw something white fluttering down into the water as the plane was climbing out. So sure enough, I thought it was the battery hatch on top here, but it wasn't red and white, it was just white. So I never thought it would be the bottom hatch, but sure enough, it was the bottom hatch came off the plane. And when that bottom hatch comes off the plane and you're climbing out, that's a big hole in the bottom of that fuselage. So it's almost like somebody threw a parachute out the back of the plane. You slow down significantly. So I managed to get it leveled out, brought it around, got her landed, and brought it back in, and there goes my, and I see my bottom hatch floating across the lake. Well, the lake I was flying on is about 225 yards long and about 100 yards wide. And it was, the wind then had shifted a little bit, so that I tried to use the plane to sort of see if I could push it back in with the plane and this and that, and it didn't work. So the wind just kept pushing it directly away from me. So I thought, okay, that's enough. Bring the plane in, packed up my stuff, went back to the pickup truck, got it all loaded up, drove around the lake, and sure enough, as soon as I got over there, there's my hatch. It was waiting for me. I had to wade out into the water just a little bit, about up to my knees, pick up my hatch and go home. But this is a real treat to fly on water. With the force, you got to have 4-cell batteries. And as far as I'm concerned, you got to have this 3-bladed prop. This thing will pop right out. It'll just go. One thing I don't like about these floats is this thing in the back. You see, I got this homemade contraption. I got this pool noodle. This pool noodle here, I'm always making little stands and so forth. That's a pool noodle. I cut a couple notches out and put it under here like this. And what that does, if you can see it, I'm sure you probably can, it keeps this water rudder up off the bed of my truck or wherever, off the workbench. Because this thing doesn't flop up. It doesn't have a hinge on it. Now I know E-flite does have one for the Carbon Cub Z that has not only a hinge right here, but it has a spring to keep it down. So I may probably end up getting that. I think they're about 12 bucks. You get the push rod and everything, and I hope I would assume it's the same size as this one, but this is not tilled up, so you got to be careful when I load this in my pickup truck and so forth. That's why I put this rubber noodle in there to keep this from breaking off. But other than that, it's a great flyer off the water. I'm telling you, as you know, it's a great airplane. And when that hatch on the bottom came off, I did get quite a bit of water in there, and that's where I keep my gyro, plus the wires in there, plus the receiver. But it didn't cause any problem. I got it home, got it dried out, and that's it. The Maule M-7 on floats. I highly recommend it. It's really a ball. So I hope these tips help you when you fly yours out here.